Hey, today I'm going to share a video with you guys, and it's going to give you a window into how disorganized the Democrats are. Throwing people out there in the streets with no clear message, just oppose, oppose, oppose. I believe that's what it looked like to them when the Tea Partiers did that kind of thing back in 2008 on when Obama was in. But um, they had some success. They shit. Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State. He was a Tea Partier. I mean, these people have actually solidified themselves and have credibility. But just to get out there and say, stop doing what you're doing, that's not going to work. And without having a coherent message and a unified message and one that makes sense from the Democratic Party. Now, the various wings of the Democratic Party should definitely be laser focused and not be bouncing around from the economy to immigration or any of this other stuff. Those are definitely hot topics of the day. But the thing that some of these groups who have been black and will be black forever need to focus on is their blackness and making some progress. If this man is willing to renegotiate the tariffs and he doesn't like the way the economy of the world is working and for the United States, and this is his response, maybe someone can appeal to him that we don't like the way our economic path is going here in the United States, and we'd like to reset it and talk to you guys on a different way where we know we can really get something, and it's not just going in one direction. Right now, it looks kind of foolish. People out there in the streets fighting for what the Democrats are telling them to fight for, and it's not in their heart, it's not in their soul, it's not what they really believe in. They just feel like they're saving the country, and in essence, they in their hearts they might feel like they are, but the country was set up in with a lot of safeguards in place. And for them to get up there and pretend that Donald Trump is just running through stop sign after stop sign after stop sign, some of his executive actions may be questionable and they may deserve to be taken into court. But the things that he's doing that require that Republican Senate for passage, and they're not complaining, neither should the Democrats. If the guys who could stop him aren't complaining, that means they don't want to stop him. And I keep getting the impression that the Democrats are speaking to folks like he's just breaking laws and he is going against norms and things that we're used to, but that's not a law breaking act. And doing something that your opponent doesn't like isn't breaking the law. You oppose them and they oppose you, and that's understandable. But I would like to see the Democrats fight back, reinvent themselves, new policies, new ideas, more inclusiveness, help people who really need to be helped and who have helped you. I mean, it's kind of almost like what Trump's going through with these tariffs. That's how I look at it. He's looking at the rest of the world as taking advantage of us for all of our support, our financial support. And he's trying to figure out a way to get some of it back. If he got the right answer, wonderful. But if he doesn't, then we got to keep on working. We can't just give up and say, hey, he's stupid. I don't believe that he wants to tank the stock market when most of his friends are millionaires and billionaires. That'd be foolish for him to do intentionally. So he must have a plan. Now, whether it's going to work or not, that's a whole nother story.
And on the heels of those tariffs, plus government job cuts we've been seeing, anti-Trump protests are taking place all across the country. Organizers are calling it hands off, and they say it's a stand against the administration's handling of the economy and human rights. More than 1,200 protests were scheduled nationwide, including on the National Mall in Washington. And that is where we find Christian Cordero standing by with more. Christian, you talked a lot about these protesters today. What message are they trying to send?
Oh, there's a lot, Phil. And, in fact, there were more than 100,000 people here on the National Mall today, according to organizers. Where we're standing right now, because this did wrap up.
That's just the part of the country that makes it so difficult, that we seem so evenly split as a country, for our presidents to win by such small margins. It's very unfortunate because it's always someone out in the streets, always somebody feel like they're being wronged or taken advantage of. And that's a real difficult way to have a country feel. I don't know if those kind of feelings or thoughts come from the false premise that we're all been taught from the time we're born. I mean, not being taught our real histories, the real interactions and going ons and things that have gone on in this country. Would that help? Would it not? What is the reason that we are so evenly divided and to the point of violence? Um, wishing the worst for your opponent, and it's just a political opponent. It's your the person and the people that you share this country with, and it's hard to believe that we can be that mean and not really understand where we have excess and where we have less. If we could balance those things out, not redistribute well, not take away the benefits for people who worked harder than others, none of that kind of stuff. But our taxes are way too high here in the United States. Our cost of living in the United States is way too high for us to be the world's market. We are the world's market. Everybody has something to sell to us. Everybody. There's not probably, unless they're isolationists, there's probably no country in the world doesn't have some sort of a trade policy with the United States, including our enemies. So with that being said, it's time for the United States to get it together. And it's time for us to start getting out there and fighting for things that make sense and not out there just fighting and going nowhere. What if you're successful? What if you guys shame Trump into putting down his presidential powers and walking off and say they don't like me, I can't take it? Who you guys gonna put in there? What are you guys gonna do? I mean, it's the Democrats don't have it together, and they're pretending like they do. Going against this guy's policies is not an answer. It's resistance, and it's nice, but you have to follow that up with a coherent plan.
About half an hour or so ago. This was, we would not have been able to stand here if the protest and rally was still going on in that stage behind me. But as you mentioned, the theme is hands off. And those are the two words that really resonated with people here. And one thing that's unique about this rally, as opposed to others that I've been to anyways, is that you kind of do have a springboard of different kinds of issues that people have latched onto from there. It's not just one thing that they're saying, but there also is that one thing, right, of this idea that, they believe that there's this government overreach happening right now. But we saw signs about hands off our bodies, hands off our schools, hands off our social security, and just capturing a little bit of the nuance and the texture of the people who were out here. They feel like that their lives are affected, and then here in DC specifically, that their jobs and their communities are affected. It's not just the cuts to the federal workforce bill. There's a lot of contractors as well that partner with the federal government.
It's a lot of economic uncertainty. I do believe that a party can be opposed without sending the country into a frenzy, without sending people into panic and saying things that are exaggerated or untrue in a political sense, just to whip your base up into a frenzy and get them upset and triggered. And that's unnecessary and not a good thing. It makes the politics in our country so much more difficult than they have to be. And the people in this country would probably be more apt to learn more and become more involved in politics if they didn't feel like it was such a hot stove and no one wants to touch it. I feel like it would be better for us to be more involved and more in a place of understanding, so that they can't just tell us anything, and they look like fools when they get on these shows and they say things are happening that aren't really happening, and Trump is just running ramshot there. No, there's a Congress there, and they're paying attention. They just happen to be friendly to him, and they're in the majority. There's nothing you can do about that. It could be the reverse. Obama never would have had Obamacare go through had he not had a majority at the time. And if he had it to do over again, would he have governed the same way? Would he have tried to push more things through? Would he been more aggressive? What about Biden? I mean, even when Biden had as recently as the last administration supermajority in the beginning, what did he do? What did he do with it? He couldn't get them all together. Trump's folks over there in Congress are holding together better than Biden's did. And it's frustrating to see that, because people who support the Democrats have to be frustrated by that, because there were things that could have passed that didn't, because we couldn't get together. And then we had Joe Manchin, when we were close on certain things, he'd be the one sticking out, but he wasn't alone. There were others. But you guys have guys like that who wield as much power as the president when they stand off like that and make you give them concessions for their state or for whatever they're trying to do in order to get their support. And if that's what it takes to be in politics, I get it. But these Republicans right now are letting all that go, any of their personal projects and pet items at home, for the opportunity to vote in accordance with Trump in high percentage, with the margin being so slim. If the Republicans had, 15 or 20 advantage, that would be different. But this is a slither. This is so close, and they're holding together. I just don't see how they're doing it.
And that's been affected too. So it's something happening on a very local level. And then, of course, as we've seen this happen across the country today, you see it's deeply resonating.
What kind of things were you hearing from protesters about the economy specifically after the tariff announcements?
Yeah, so the tariffs are really impacting people on different levels, and so it depends on who you ask, right? So there was this family that I just spoke with, and they're worried about the costs going up, because if inflation continues to rise after it cooling for quite a bit, then they're worried about the potential for them not to be able to pay childcare, things like that.
I don't think inflation has cooled for quite a bit, though. What she just said, after cooling for quite a bit. I'm waiting for Trump to make the prices go down, like he said, but I don't see them cooling or having cooled. When Biden was in office, the inflation was an issue. And Kamala Harris was telling us that it was due to price gouging. We haven't heard anything else about that. Maybe that needs to be addressed if it was the truth. But she was saying that price gouging, and now Trump comes in and feels that we're getting price gouged through tariffs as a country. That's gouging. And she says she's blaming the corporations. He's blaming our trade partners. I don't know who's telling the truth. Bottom line is, somebody better figure it out to get them prices down. That's all that matters. The Democrats have figured out a way to give us high prices, give us low, raggedy little neighborhoods to live in, give us bad economies, give us just the worst of a lot of things, and make us feel like we fought for it. Like it could have been worse, but we fought, and so we just got a cardboard box and a blanket, but it could have been a lot worse. You could have just got that cardboard box. That's the kind of shit that they come at us with, and I just think it's so inappropriate and wrong to take advantage of folks the way that the Democratic Party has. And I'm sure the Republican Party is probably equally as guilty, because they are the exact polar opposite of them. And I am not completely well versed on being a Republican, so I don't feel like I've ever been abused or used on that side, but definitely as a Democrat, definitely my aunts, my uncles, my parents, my teachers, people, adults in my community. I just look back to the conversations that I had with them as a teen and a young child, and it ain't right, not at all, for a party to be that arrogant and that dismissive of a group of people, to not reciprocate, to beg for their vote time and time, and then get to the point where you expect their vote, but they can't expect anything out of you.
That, one of them told me that they actually stopped contributing to their 401k because they feel like their budget has already been strained. And then you have people in this demographic, right, the age demographic, that economists have said that this affects maybe most immediately because they don't have the time to wait, that the Trump administration has said, just be patient, right? This is going to be good for our economy in the long run. If you're trying to retire right now, then perhaps you don't have that luxury.
And that's something that both sides Congress needs to fix that. Everyone isn't the same age. Some people retire now. Some people retire in 3 years. Some people retired 7 years ago. The retirement ages should be contingent upon when it's time for you to go, and not whether the market is performing well. Our retirement accounts and our Social Security accounts and anything that's going to propel us into retired life should not be tied to the stock market or something that can be affected so devastatingly. It's no way. And people expect to retire and you work all these years and then you get to the end and they tell you it'd be a terrible time to go. Ugh. So you got to hang in there for 3 more years or another year until the stock market gets it together, or you might not even live that long. Who knows? But it just shouldn't be that way. And whoever did that is a horrible thing. It doesn't benefit the retiree. Your retirement money, if it's put in a safe place and not put out there being gambled and risked in ways it shouldn't be, it would be reasonable to expect to retire whenever you're ready. But it isn't reasonable. Now you must check market conditions and who's in office and all that kind of stuff. That's so unfair.
Was the message that we heard from a lot of the people who are in and around retirement age and trying to make that happen. There was one couple that really stood out to us. The husband had just retired. He's really worried about his Social Security going away, and the wife is trying to retire, but the tariffs announcement is adding a little bit of a wrinkle to that. Take a listen.
I don't sleep well. I'm scared. I'm scared that the money that we've saved all of our lives for retirement is not going to be there.
Yeah, so it really just depends who you ask, Phil. But there is one thing that everyone here was motivated by, and that was the message to send, not just to the Trump administration, but also to Democrats on Capitol Hill. And so there is this sense that something needs to be done, and we'll see where it goes from here.
All right, Christian Cordero on the National Mall. Thanks so much.
And without a doubt, something needs to be done. And something needs to be done between the Congress, the Democrats and Republicans. They cannot fight on every front. I know there are some things that they disagree on, but there has to be way more stuff they agree on, and they need to get together on some of that stuff, start working together, and then when they get to impasses, they'll say, okay, I'll give you this one, you give me the next one. It's only right. In order to do what's best for the people, we're never going to get all we want. But if we can get our leaders up there to compromise a little more, we can do a little better. Life in America can be a lot smoother. And when a president comes in office, I just remember I feel the same way about Donald Trump right now based on what the Democrats are saying that I felt about George Bush. And people might say, oh, no, that was those wars over there. And prior to the war starting, I just didn't have high regard for him as a president. But once the wars and the things that went on over there that I followed in intimate detail, I could never, ever not have bad feelings and bad thoughts for George Bush. But now they're telling us that President Trump is worse, and worse than a president who we were being told was committing war crimes. Worse than, you need to qualify that with us and not just make statements like that, because that's harsh to say those things. And it's like, whoa, really? And Bush is laying low, but he was the guy who, man, we were like, no way. Is he the devil? Oh yeah, absolutely. Or he's his brother. He's a bad dude. Everybody was him and Cheney and the whole regime. And now they've been redeemed just by time. And that's why I'm very interested to see how time is going to look back on this era, and how Biden will be rated as a president historically, and Trump, and especially with his term being broken. I think him losing in 2020 was the best thing that could have happened to him, because it's the reason why he's more focused and deliberate and moving along a little nicer this time than he was the first time. I think he was really a fish out of water and being met with resistance, and coming back the second time, proving that he could do it again, proving that the country supported him enough to vote him back in office. And that's quite an accomplishment. I do believe that Kamala Harris thought she was going to just have it handed to her, but she did have it handed to her, but it was her ass, not the election. So it don't always go the way you think it will. And with that, folks, I'm going to get out of here. Like, comment, please share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.